Have you ever wondered who's going to pay for the medical costs if you're visiting New Zealand or you're a work permit holder in New Zealand and something goes wrong? So who's actually going to cover those medical costs? Well, this video will explain all that and a little bit more, so stay tuned. Let's start with the easy ones. If you're a citizen or a permanent resident of New Zealand, that's easy. They'll cover anything that goes wrong medically in New Zealand. ACC would pay for anything that happens if it's an accident, and ACC stands for Accident Compensation Corporation. And no, it's not a rock band's name, but what they actually do is they compensate you if you've had an accident. You also get some income benefits from there as well, but you need to be a resident or citizen in New Zealand. The ACC is a topic all on its own, so I've done a video on that as well to show you exactly what they cover and what they don't cover. So for those of you coming over to New Zealand to work in New Zealand, and you have a 2-year or longer work permit, then you qualify for exactly the same medical benefits as you would if you were a resident or citizen. Which makes sense because for those 2 years, you're going to contribute to the New Zealand economy and the tax system. So they're happy to cover you for any of those medical costs. Now what happens if you want to visit New Zealand because it's such a beautiful country, or you want to come and study in New Zealand, which by the way is really expensive. What I would suggest then is make sure you have really good travel insurance, because the New Zealand system, public system, will not cover you for anything to do due to an illness. That's where your travel insurance would come in. If anything goes wrong, unforeseen goes wrong, your travel insurance would step up and they will pay for those medical costs. You will, however, be covered if you have an accident in New Zealand. So they'll be able to cover all your medical costs if it was due to an accident. There are some limitations to this policy as well. And to give you a good example is, if you are traveling to and from New Zealand, they will not cover that if it was an accident. So that means coming into New Zealand and you step off the plane, as soon as you step off, you fall, you break your leg, not covered because it's technically not New Zealand. If you, however, went into the airport and then you fell, broke your leg, sure thing, you're covered. So my advice is make sure you know where you're going to have your accident. For those of you with kids, you're probably wondering, will my children be covered if we come to New Zealand? Well, the simple answer is yes, as long as you as the parent are eligible for medical cover in New Zealand. So that means if you have a 2-year or longer work permit, your children under the age of 17 will all be covered under the medical public system. Once they go over that age though, they need to then make another plan, or you as the parent will be responsible for them, which becomes quite expensive if something goes wrong. For students, there are other options. Some of the insurance companies offer a specific policy tailored to students. So that means you'll have some form of medical cover if you're in New Zealand and you're on a study visa, which means that you won't have to pay for all of those costs. I would still suggest though, having the best travel insurance policy you can, because they will fill in those shortfalls. If anything goes wrong, your travel insurance would be your first port of call, but there are other options out there as well. Just a side note on travel insurance, which is actually a really important note, is make sure they know about your medical history. Phone them up and tell them, hey look, I've had X, Y, and Z in the past. Will this be a problem on my policy? Most insurance companies will exclude any pre-existing conditions, or you will not be covered for them unless you phone them up. And then they'll be able to adjust the premium to make sure that you have the right cover in place and you'll be covered for those if anything goes wrong. Same goes for telling them how long you're going to be in New Zealand for. A lot of insurance companies have a few months that the policy is in force and then it expires. By phoning them up and telling them you're going to be here for 1 year, they again can adjust the premiums to make sure you're fully covered for that whole period. Rather pay a little bit more upfront and make sure that everything is covered at the end. You don't want to be stuck with a big medical bill if anything goes wrong. So I hope you found this video interesting and informative, and I've answered all your questions. But if you have any more questions, feel free to leave a comment. And if you like what I do, click the like and subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any future videos that I do. Until next time, see you later.